Hey everybody, welcome back around to the Blog and Grill. I'm your host Doug here with your video blog for September 5th, 2014. I have a great blog planned for you today as we get ready for the NFL weekend, college football, NASCAR, and even some Major League Baseball. So first, let's get to NFL Week 1. I want to talk first about last night's game between the Seattle Seahawks and the Green Bay Packers. The Seahawks really put a beat down on the Green Bay Packers, winning the game 36-16. And really, the key for this team is they just shut guys down. They shut down Aaron Rodgers last night, holding him to 189 yards passing on just 23 of 33. Quarterback rating of 47.9. The key for Seattle was they just ran the ball so effectively. Marshawn Lynch carried the ball 20 times for 110 yards and 2 touchdowns. A very balanced attack for them, as well as they had 191 yards passing and 207 yards rushing. Russell Wilson, he was pretty solid, 19 of 28, 191 yards and 2 TDs. Pretty solid performance for him, so he looked pretty good. And that gives me my first win of the year against the spread. With my picks, I am now 1-0. So that is pretty good news there. Now it's time to get to my other picks, as I'm going to pick against the spread right now. My first game I'm going to look at Bengals and the Ravens. Ravens at home against this one. This game comes in at an even line. I think the Bengals are going to be playing better early on in the year. Andy Dalton looked good in the preseason. So I'm going to take the Bengals in this one to get the win. My next game, Raiders versus the Jets. I like the Raiders in this one. The Jets come in as a 5.5-point home favorite. I do not like the Jets to cover this one. I'm going to take the Raiders in the upset in this one. Third game I'm going to pick 49ers versus the Cowboys at 4:25 on Sunday. 49ers are a 4-point road favorite. I think the Cowboys can get this one done. I think their offense is a little bit better, and I don't think the offense of the 49ers will gel real well here on the first week. I'm going to take the Cowboys to win this one over the 49ers. And finally, the Sunday night game at 8:30, Colts versus the Broncos in Denver. I think Denver is going to play very well in this game. They're a 7.5-point favorite. I'll take the Broncos and the points as they take down the Indianapolis Colts. All right, time for some NFL two-a-days as we're finishing up our two-a-days, giving you our playoff teams as well. Our first two-a-day today is with the New Orleans Saints. Last year, the Saints were 11-5. They lost to the Eagles in the wild card game. A very good offense and very solid defense. Draft, I'm going to give them a B. I like to pick up a Brandon Cooks, the wide receiver out of Oregon State, and they also got some very good defensive players as well. Key additions for this team, they bring in Jarris Byrd, the safety, Champ Bailey, the cornerback, and the offensive lineman, Zach Strief. They lose a lot, though. They lose the running back, Darren Sproles, who was prolific on that on the turf in the Superdome. Cornerback, Jabari Greer, safety, Roman Harper, and linebacker, defensive end, Will Smith. I think the big question is, can these guys that left, can they be replaced, and can this defense be good? I think the defense will be very solid. It's going to get better. Kenny Vaccaro back for his second year out of Texas, and we'll see what they can do, but I think this team will be very good defensively, very good offensively, and be the class of this division. I have the Saints finishing at 13-3. All right, before we continue with our two-a-days, I want to go to a little bit of some NASCAR. My man Jeff Gordon, 21st fastest in the first practice. Not very impressive on that front. But I still like him to run pretty solid this week. Really, this is the final race before the chase. There are 14 guys that are pretty much locked into the chase. 13 of them have wins. Matt Kenseth is pretty solidly in the chase right now. It's going to be interesting to see if one of the top 5 can get a win and become the overall number 1 seed. Right now, Jeff Gordon will be the overall number 1 seed at this point. Matt Kenseth right now has about an 89-point lead over the last transfer spot, so he's in pretty good shape. But my driver to watch this week sits 26th in points, Tony Stewart. Can he get a win and get himself into the chase? If he can get a win, he was in the top 30 in points. He will be into the chase. Other guys to watch, Clint Boyer on the outside looking in, Kyle Larson, Austin Dillon, Martin Truex Jr., some guys who have run good at this track as well. We'll break down NASCAR Monday, too. All right, time for our second and final NFL two-a-day. Tampa Bay Bucs last year 4-12. Very poor quarterback play with Josh Freeman at the beginning and then Mike Glennon, who played better. Run game was okay. Defense was better than it has been before. Draft, I'm going to give them a B+. I like their first two picks, getting the wide receiver Mike Evans out of Texas A&M and getting the tight end Austin Seferian-Jenkins out of Washington. Key additions, they went out and made some moves. They bring in a new head coach in Lovie Smith. Quarterback Josh McCown. They get better on the offensive line too with Anthony Collins and the recently traded for Logan Menkins. Key departures, they lose the cornerback Darrelle Revis, but that was expected to happen, and also the offensive lineman Carl Nix. I think the big question for this team going into the season is, can Josh McCown be a starter in the league? He played well for the Bears last year. We'll see if he can play even better this year. I think they're going to be okay. I think they'll finish at 7-9 in a very tough division and a tough schedule. So the NFC South shapes up with the Saints at the top at 13-3, Falcons 8-8, Panthers and Bucs at 7-9. My playoff teams in the NFC, I got the Saints, Seahawks, Bears, and Eagles winning the divisions, and the 49ers and the Packers getting in wild card spots. And in the AFC, I got the Broncos and Colts, Patriots and Bengals winning divisions, Steelers and Ravens sneaking in the playoff positions. And ultimately, I'm going to have the Indianapolis Colts taking on the New Orleans Saints in the Super Bowl, and the Saints raising the Vince Lombardi Trophy. All right, time for some college football. Pretty solid college football weekend we got ahead of us. Some great games for sure. Time to pick against the spread once again. First matchup, number 14 USC versus number 13 Stanford in Palo Alto. Stanford comes in as a 2.5-point favorite. I think Stanford is the better team. They're going to win by a field goal. They control tempo. I'll take Stanford to cover the spread. Michigan State, Oregon. This game's going to be closer than I think people think. The line is Oregon, a 12-point favorite. I'll take Oregon to win, but they will not cover the spread in this one. Michigan versus Notre Dame. Michigan versus number 16, Notre Dame. Notre Dame, a 3.5-point favorite. I think this game is an easy one to cover the spread. Notre Dame could win this one by a lot. I'll take them plus the 3.5. Virginia Tech versus Ohio State. Ohio State, number 8 in the country, did not play real well against Navy last week. I would think the quarterback will gel a little bit more with his receivers. I'll take Ohio State to cover the spread against Virginia Tech at home. And finally, Memphis taking on an offensively questioned team after last week, the number 11 UCLA Bruins. I think Hunley has a better week. I'll take UCLA to cover the 23 points and get the big win. And just some baseball news. Yankees start a 3-game set with the Royals tonight at the stadium. It's going to be James Shields 12-7 with a 3.38 versus Michael Pineda 3-3 with a 2.09. Yankees still 4 games back in the wild card spot for the second wild card behind the Detroit Tigers. They got a big win last night. Chase Headley walk-off home run after Mark Teixeira tied it, and that was a big moment for the Yankees. So we'll be back on Monday. We'll talk NFL Week 1. We'll talk NASCAR and Major League Baseball. Check me out on sportsmindednews.com. Also follow me on Twitter at YankeeBaller415. You can comment, question, subscribe to my page. Thanks for tuning in to the Blog and Grill. I will be back on Monday. Have a great weekend.